Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Let me create. We'll look at one small functionality within advanced reporting, and we'll talk about the remaining functions. There are just a few left, simple ones. And then we can take any questions that you may have. Expecting this to be a short session today. Today, I will quickly talk about sorting. I'm creating a new report which is of type advanced. I've selected workers for HCM reporting, and the same report type is advanced. We'll add a few quick fields here. Many times, what we want is we want to group data together, right? And we would want to sort data, get some totals, and on and forth. We have not looked at this sort tab. As the name suggests, it allows us to sort the data right. But then there are some additional options that are available, and those can be helpful. What we can do is we can actually group data together, right? Whenever we are grouping data together, we use this field called group name. That becomes our first field, and this is a Workday delivered field. It basically allows us to group data together and then create group totals. For example, I want to get the count of workers in each supervisory org, let's say, or I want to. Let's say, get the sum of total salary of employees in different supervisory orgs. It allows me to group workers together. Then the next field or the next set of fields I want is basically the details that I want to show within that group. Within each group, I want to show the employee name as an example. Then for each of these employees or for the group of employees that I'm displaying on my report, I want to display Let's say the total base pay amount. You've already looked at this field, right? And if I look at the options, because this is a currency field, what I can also do is I want to get the sum of total base pay amount. And if you see there are other functions available, I can get the average. I can get the maximum minimum. I want to get the sum. And I also want to get the count of workers. I added a few fields. Once we see the output, this would make sense. Then I'll go to the Sort tab. And basically my requirement is to group employees based the location, let's say they belong to right. I'm adding location field. Right, and I want to. Our first column here was group name, and when we say location would be my header system then allows or system then shows me data based for each location. I want to display subtotals. What this total base pay amount and also the count of employees in each location. And probably I also want to display grand total. Let me run this report and then we'll try and understand how reporters behave. If you see, let me open this in a separate tab. Right. We said we want a group name as the first column, right? Our first column here is group name. And then we said in that our location is what we would be using for the purpose of our grouping, right? This is what we use, or this is what we want to use for clubbing our data together. While we didn't add location in our columns. Under group name, work rate dynamically shows us location. What is this doing is it is grouping all workers, right? Which is basically the columns that we added, based on the location they belong to. This is the first location which has 2 workers and the total base pay amount is both 0. Let's do one thing. Let us add a few. Field saying only get us details of those employees whose base pay amount is greater than 0. Adding new filtered. Set to base pay amount. Let's see if I can. Sorry, I'll remove optimize for performance and then let's see. Just say greater than 1. Let us run this again and we'll see. Alright, now this makes a lot more sense. If you see this particular location has 2 employees, but each of those employees I'm getting their total base pay amount. But we are getting all workers in that group. And in that group, we have specified location is what we are using for grouping. And we are getting total base pay amount for each of those workers. And we have also said show us the sum of the total base pay amount. When I go in here for each location, I also get to see the sum for this location, 2298 Columbus, which is this location again, which has these 2 employees. The overall total base pay amount sum is this, and the count of employees in this location is 2. Similarly, this location has 1 employee, and this is the total base pay amount, and on and forth. Right for each of the grouping, it is giving me count of employees. The location, if you see, it is giving me the count of employees, right? In this location, once again I see that in that. In Columbus there are 2 workers. In Columbus there are 2 workers, which is what we wanted. And for each of those workers, we wanted to see the total base pay amount. I see the total base pay amount. I also want to sum the total base pay amount. I can see the overall sum of the total base pay amount for each location. And then I can also see the count of workers in this location. This location has the total base pay amount. Sum is X dollars and the count of employees is 2. This allows me to group workers together. Now let's go ahead and make a few other changes. In short, I want to add this checkbox called Enable Outlining based on grouping. I'm grouping my employees based on the location they belong to. Currently, this is how the output looks. What I want to do is excuse me, I want to enable outlining. Let's see what happens when we go ahead and do that. Now, when I come back on this report, all right, now my Outlook looks much cleaner. For each of the location, it shows me the total base pay for that location and the count of employees in that location. For example, in this location, the total base pay amount sum is this. And overall, there are 7 employees. And what I can do is, if I want to see the details, I can then go ahead and expand that location and it shows me the details. Right. I can go ahead and enable group my data right, based on any parameter. And I can then calculate some value or get a summarization of some value for each grouping. Does this make sense? What I can also do is I can create subgroupings, right? For example, in each location, I want to group my employees based on the, let's say, supervisory organizations. To come back, I can add, let's say, supervisory organizations. This could be any other parameter. Again, I want to display headers. I want to display, probably I don't want to display subtotals for the supervisory org. I can include different labels. I can include group names. We need to display subtotals as well. And now when I run this report, we selected that option, display total label, right? We said include total label in the subtotals. I have this total label included in the subtotals. And then we said include group name in headers and subtotals. It shows me that this is a location. Once again, if I expand any location, then in that location it is showing me subgrouping. For each location, it shows me again the grouping of employees based on the supervisory orgs they belong to. This location overall, if I close this location overall had 7 employees and their total base pay amount or the sum of their base pay was this. When I expand this, those 7 employees are then grouped into these 5 supervisory orgs. This supervisory org, and it shows me that this is a grouping of supervisory org. This supervisory org has 3 employees. The others have just 1 employee. And then it shows me the sum of the total base pay for each of those employees. Once again, I can expand it and it shows me the details of those employees. right? I can group my employees based on the different parameters. Whenever we are creating this grouping, we'll have to add this field called group name. That has to be the first field. And then if we want to display totals and subtotals, then we'll have to add at least one field of type numeric or currency. Here we added two fields. The first one is the base pay amount for which we want to show the sum. And then we are also getting the count of workers in each of the group. And in terms of groups, we created two levels of grouping location and within that supervisory org. All right. Again, it's not often that you would create these kind of reports. This usually not a lot of requirements around this. But then this is a functionality which allows us to display information in a specific format. Any questions on this? All right. If there are no questions, let me check. I still cannot. All right. This is the whole issue. It says you are signed in as a proxy user. Some applications may not be available. All right. In that case, I think we can talk about some of the remaining KL fields. And then we can take any questions that you may have. All right. We were building this report. And in terms of this report, we looked at a lot of KL fields. There are just a few others that I'll talk about. We have some text-related KL fields as well. I am adding a field here called, let's say, session and write. Which is the social security number. The workers. This is not what I want. I want the social security number. It's giving me the social security number of the employees, right? Now, there's a standard field available. But I didn't take that field because I wanted to show you how the cal field is created. I don't want the full social security number of the employees, right, to be shown. Instead, I want to display the masked social security number. Let's say I want the first 5 digits to be masked with an X with a cross mark. And system should only show me the last 4 digits. It should be XXX followed by 8761. Right. That's what I want to display on the report. For that, once again, I can create a calculated field. In fact, there would be a couple of calculated fields that I'm going to create. Let's do that. The first thing that I need to do is, out of this 9 digits, I need to extract the last 4 digits. Right. And we've seen that this is a field of type text. Right. Social security number is a field of type text. What I'll do is, out of this, I'll extract the last. This is a field of type text. Out of this, I'll extract the last 4 digits. I'm creating a new cal field for report. And the cal field is to get the substring of the text. This is a text-related field with 9 characters. I want to get the last 4 characters. I'm creating a cal field of type substring text. Let's call it SNN, last 4 characters. My text field is social security number. And if you see, there are lots of options available. If let's say my data is, let's say this is how my data looks. Let's say ABC followed by parenthesis DF. Right. In this case, let's say I want to get this information. Then I can get a cal field saying, get me all details after a specific delimiter. And what would be the delimiter? That delimiter would be the start of the parenthesis. Right. I'll come in here and say, get me all the data that is after this delimiter. Then it will give me output, which is DF followed by closing brackets. But that's not what I want. I want only the information within these brackets. In that case, I can say no, not after the delimiter, but between 2 delimiters. My first delimiter is again the opening brackets. Come in here and say, get me all information which is between this delimiter and this delimiter. Right. There are lots of options to get the substring from a text field. In this case, our requirement is quite simple. We don't have any delimiters. I want the last 4 digits and I want to ignore the first 5 digits. I'll say fixed position. What I want is I want the starting character to be 6. Right. I want to get information from 6th character till the last character. I could have said, get me fixed length of 4 characters. Right. I can get information starting from character 6th, which is this, and then I can get 4 characters. But I know this social security number here, or in any case, would be a maximum of 9 characters. I want starting from 6 character till the end. Instead of 4, I could have also said until the end. Right. And both will get me the same information. In this case, I'll say it's getting me the last 4 characters. Right. 1, double 2, and on and forth. Now I want the users to know that this is the other 5 digits are masked. This is how I need my information. I want the information to be followed by 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how I would want to see this information. For that, I have this data. Right. I want to add this to it. Right. For that, I would create a text constant. I'll come in here. I'll edit my report. I'll create a new text constant, which is just this information. And then I can go ahead and concatenate text. I can concatenate that text constant with the last 4 digits of the social security number I just extracted. Right. I'll edit the report. I would create a new calculated field. The call field is called cat text. Must. We already have the second bit, which is the social security number, last 4 digits. We already have this information. We need to create this information. Right. For that, I'll create a call field of type text constant. Right. I'll just label as this is all I'm creating. Right. And I'll follow it with this global field, which is simply a high one. Right. Created a text constant, appended it with this global field, and then appending it or concatenating it with that substring text I created to extract the last 4 characters. Let's run this now. I have the last 4 characters, which I extracted using substring text. And then this is the text constant that I created. And finally, all I did was use the function concatenate text to bring it all together. Right? Does this make sense? You have question? Any comment? Or any bit that you want me to probably quickly deal with you? Alright, I'll consider that as a normal. I think we have covered most of the calc fields that we wanted. I guess after today's session, though today's our last session, we may, if you guys want, you can also have a review session an hour. You guys can ask me questions then as well. We can have a 1 hour session. And maybe in that session, if our access is sorted, then I will quickly cover discovery boards as well. As I mentioned, it's a very small topic. There's just one calc field that I didn't do that would be relevant for you, that is ARI, aggregate related instances. Let me show you what I mean. I am adding address. Address is a multi-instance field. Each worker can have multiple addresses. Right. There's a one-to-many relationship between address. And from this address, I want to get the details of the address. I'm getting the address name, as well as, let's say, the country, the address. Let's run this. And then we'll see how the output looks. This error, again this error. If you see it, because this worker doesn't have any compensation and it's trying to convert data into local currency. That's why you're getting that error. Again, this is a test tenant. What I'll do is, I'll go ahead and add that filter again to our report. I added that filter that it only pulls employees whose base pay is greater than 0. And now it works fine. Any which was, this is what I wanted to show you. We added this EMI multi, not EMI, this multi-instance field, which is called addresses. Logum and Neil has 2 addresses. One would be her work address, the other could be her home address, and on and forth. The first one is 42 Laurel Street, which is India, and then New York, USA. And right and on and forth, it shows me all the addresses that the employee is related to. Now I want to group this information together. I can do that by creating an ARI field, which is aggregate related instances. Basically, I'm trying to aggregate group or related instances. In this case, worker is my primary business object, and I am trying to aggregate all the addresses that the worker is related to. Right? That's how I, or you can understand. This calculate aggregate related instances. I'm creating a calculate. It is ARI. I'm calling it all countries. The related object is addresses. Right? And I can write the condition. For example, maybe I can say only aggregate those addresses, which are workers' home addresses. Right? Or only aggregate workers' work address or on and forth. Again, just like we wrote our conditions in EMI extract single instance. We can again write a condition if you want to. And what fields I want to aggregate. I basically want to aggregate all the countries that worker is associated with. This is the field I want to aggregate. this time. Right. This worker has two work locations or two addresses, India and USA. And this calculate is basically aggregating both of those countries. Right. Similarly, I could have created other calculated fields as well. But if you see, the values are seen system automatically. It doesn't show me those duplicate values. For Oliver, because both addresses were from US, it just shows me one US, right? And doesn't repeat that. Aggregate related instances allows me to aggregate related data. If you do any calculation on an aggregate, like if I want to segregate it at air, let's say a different country, right? How will that work? I can do it. When you say, let's say, I only want to get data for Germany or any specific country, I believe that's what you're asking for, right? I can do that using that. I ate it. I can write a condition, right? I can say in this, here I can create a new condition. This is similar to EMA. I only want to extract instances which satisfy those conditions. Similarly, I only want to aggregate those countries which satisfy this condition. I can come in here. I can create a new calc field and I can say this is true false. All conditions are true false. This is on the address business object. And I can say address is work address or country is US or country is whatever based on whatever condition I'm writing. I only want, let's say, here I can say only aggregate those where country is used. I can add condition. Right? This time it's not getting me India. It's only aggregating US for me. If you see, most of these calc fields are very similar in nature. For example, lookup related value. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to fetch a field which is available on the related business object to some related instances. I'm taking the related business object that my primary business object links to. And from that related business object, I'm trying to sum certain values. Right? We sum the amount of all the allowances that the worker is related to aggregate related instances. We are trying to aggregate all the countries of the addresses that the worker is related to. This one more discount related instances. I want to count how many. Let's say addresses that a worker has or how many positions that the worker is linked to. I can create count related instances. These are all related calculus, very similar in nature. I'm trying to get data from a RPO, extract multi-instance, extract single instance. All these calc fields that we saw, instance related calc fields, they have the same basic functionality or the same basic logic behind them. I can also create. I want to know how many addresses a worker is related to just a count. I can create a calc field called count related instances. This time I'm not getting the actual instances. I just want to get a count. I'm calling it address count. I only want to count the number of addresses that the worker is related to. And again, I can count all addresses, but I can only count addresses which are worker's work address or home address or addresses in US or India. Same logic applies. I can again, based on my requirement, based on what I want to count, I can create a condition here. The way we added our condition. Here we can again write a condition. It's getting me a count. This worker is related to two addresses and it gives me 2 and on 4th. I'm getting a count of addresses that the worker is related to. All of these calc fields are, as I mentioned, they work on the same premise. I have a business object and I want to get some information from the related business object or another business object that this business object links to. SLI, LRB, lookup related value, count related instances, extract multi-instance. They are all doing the same thing. They're getting information from the other business objects that my primary business object links to. Any question? Know anything? I think there's not much that we have to cover today. Discovery boards was another 30 minutes or, and I wanted to dedicate 1 hour for any questions that you may have. Any which ways, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.